Tornwell's Joy in the Morning.
Yes.
How do you feel?
I feel amazing.
Yeah.
How did it go? It's been good.
2 years of
2 years of trying to make an album. It's been awesome. I'm excited about it because the last album came out in January of 2020. I don't know if you remember that year.
Oh my word.
We've tried to all erase it from our memories, but...
Did you do the thing where you wrote a bunch of songs that you just felt like didn't apply now after everything that happened?
I felt like during that time, it was a great time to write and create, and there was actually space for it, which was cool. But what I'm excited about with this one is I actually get to sit down and talk with people about it.
Right.
You know, so much of that was lost in the COVID era. So, yeah, grateful to have new music out, and I hope people love it as much as I love making it.
So the song Come Home really caught my ear. It was in this culture that we live in of people questioning faith and deconstruction and kind of that invitation of, you know, kind of the wrestle with doubts, but I'm going to be here waiting on for you, and I hope that you come home. What was the whole inspiration for that?
It was just that, you know, seeing so many people struggling, you know, and really just struggling with the idea of whether or not they had permission to ask questions about their faith. And I think Jesus gives us a great example when he's talking with Thomas, and Thomas is like, I don't know. Like, I know you just walked through a wall after I watched you be crucified, and now you're suddenly in the room with me, but I can't quite wrap my mind around the reality of Jesus still here after death. And Jesus doesn't pull back heaven and pull out the HD screen to replay all of the miracles that he's performed. He shows him his wounds, and he doesn't smack him upside of the head for asking questions. He actually just presents evidence. And I think that as believers, sometimes we can become so scared of questions that we push people away, and they don't have permission to think, feel, doubt. And so this song is like a person who is in the local church, committed to the local church, loving the local church, also saying, like a good family member, State Farm is there. No, but just saying, like, yo, if you talk about my family, we're going to box. But I get to be honest with my family, and it's constructive, and we move forward. So that's kind of what Come Home is starting that conversation.
So how did this conversation get started with you musically, though? Because this usually gets birthed out of something that you've been working through. Maybe it's a story. Maybe somebody got boxed.
Yeah, right. Well, boxing happens all the time in the comment section on Instagram and Facebook, and lives are changed and people are saved. That never happens.
Yes, of course.
If you want to save the world, you might want to cross the street and talk to your neighbor as opposed to getting into someone's comment section. Just an aside there. But I mean, just for me, I've been wounded by the church. You know, I've been hurt. I've been misunderstood, I feel like, in different ways. When I first started, you guys know my band Royal Taylor.
Oh, yeah.
You're no strangers to that season. But when we put out our first music video and I was dancing in it, and there were girls in it, not doing anything inappropriate, just dancing, we were canceled from events. I've been on stage, you know, and told, hey, can you tone down the dancing for the next set? You know, so there have been moments where it's like, well, I thought, you know, God put this particular skill set in me to use to glorify him. I didn't know that my whole self wasn't allowed here. And I think that there are a lot of ways in which people don't believe that their whole self is allowed in a faith context. So I just wanted to speak from that place authentically and in a loving way. If you're on the other side of that conversation and you've been hurt, you've been wounded, you've been bruised by people who are supposed to be defined by love, please know that there is a distinction between Jesus and the church.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of that, anyone that you get into a loving relationship with, there's going to be some element of hurt.
Yeah.
Because it is a part of being human, and it's a part of figuring it all out. So don't throw it all out just because you've been hurt.
Yeah. Don't cancel the church even if it cancels you.
Yes.
Because there are parts of the body of Christ that are going to be ready, willing, and able.
Yes.
But you maybe have to find that. Maybe you just did.
Yeah. Well, and I
Maybe
really
you just
feel
did.
like if somebody gets bullied in high school, it would be kind of absurd to say, you know what, I don't believe in chemistry anymore. I don't believe in history anymore. Why?
Yeah.
Well, because the people that taught me that and learned alongside me bullied me.
I've
Yeah.
never really believed in
Just say,
chemistry or
Chemistry,
geometry.
my grades proved they knew it existed. But it was no, the information, like the evidence that Jesus presented, for example, that is true, and it doesn't. And emotions are so tough because we do feel the way that we feel, but it doesn't invalidate something.
Yeah.
Like that.
No.
And Jesus didn't respond with information, he responded with experience. And I think so many times we feel like,
Explain that.
So
Experience. So give me an example.
Well, Jesus didn't, like I said, he didn't say, have you not read? He answered Satan and temptation in that way with the word and with all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But when it came to a personal relationship of someone that he cared about, trying to give them the evidence that they needed, that their heart needed, it was look at the wounds.
That's good.
Come feel what I've felt. Walk where I've walked. And a lot of times we want to give people Bible verses because we don't really want to show our wounds. It's easy to say, yeah, you should believe this, you should. And the Bible says this. Here's the places I've struggled. Here are the places that God has met me. There's the other apostle who said, Lord, I believe, but help my unbelief. And so there is a world in which our faith and our doubts coexist. In fact, it is the presence of doubt that gives us the possibility for faith.
Yeah, that's good.
So if that wasn't an option, then no faith would be required. And so I think giving people permission to wrestle, like to figure it out, is okay. Because we actually do have the truth, not a truth or a version of truth. And the Bible says that who the Spirit leads to truth, he will lead into all truth. So we actually have to trust God to be who he says he's going to be and lovingly lead people toward it. And it's typically kindness that leads people to life change. So I don't think anything else is really going to work.
Yeah.
It's a red flag whenever anybody's selling perfect.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah.
That's
Doesn't
more than
exist.
likely. Yeah, that's more than likely your red flag right there.
We got some good questions here from a Talking Points game, but before we kind of wrap up the album talk, favorite song on the album and why?
Oh, gosh. Why would you ask me
Pick
that?
your
Choosing your kids.
favorite children.
You know I can't do that.
You sadistic man.
What's just what one came to mind when I said that, though?
Afraid with You is probably one of my favorites because it came from such a cool, authentic place of me just trying to be a better husband, really. And the thing that I struggle with is empathy.
Okay.
So if you have problems, don't tell me about them.
Are you an 8 on the Enneagram?
No, I'm a 3.
Okay.
Which is very optimistic. I'm typically unfettered by bad news. It's like, okay, well, what's the next possibility?
Okay, sure.
That does not work well in marriage, as I'm sure you all know very well.
Stop and say a prayer for Tauren's wife.
Yes, seriously.
His
It's
children.
like, I don't need you to fix this. I don't need you to solve. I just want you to acknowledge that I'm feeling this way.
Yes.
But why? That's not productive. If we're not here to solve the problem.
It is if you want to stay married.
Yeah. Yes. So, Afraid with You is like what I hope to be, and I think obviously it works in the context of like a human relationship in that way, but also just all the things that we're experiencing right now in society and culture, to not try and fix everyone's problems or fix them, just to admit that a problem exists and to be down to sit there with them in it, I think is really cool. And it features Tiffany Hudson, whose voice I love from Elevation Worship.
Come on.
And at the end, there's a pretty cool surprise, which is TD Jakes. like preaching.
Okay.
So it's just a whole thing that I love.
Did he
great.
come into
That's
the
great.
recording studio with a suit?
No.
That man can dress.
Was it a clip from stage or did he
can't
come
dress.
in?
No, we took an excerpt from the sermon.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
All right.
Oh.
How fire would that be to get TD
Oh.
Jakes in the booth?
Oh my gosh.
What was that purple flash? That was TD Jakes.
That was TD Jake, boy. Yeah.
A bird, a plane.
Yeah, yeah.
TD Jakes.
Yeah.
So here, these are just some talking points. Does the cards for Christians, cards for family. Do you think there is a difference between being smart and being wise?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, stupid question.
Yeah.
It's not a smart question, obviously.
Yeah. Of course.
Yeah. How would you define that?
Wisdom is knowing when to apply knowledge. Smart is just you have knowledge. But you can be smart, unwise, and very destructive. You could be less smart, but wise, and be able to handle conflict, conversations, difficulty without necessarily a lot of info.
Great example of that, my son with Asperger's. Wealth of knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
but learning how to filter it and be able to speak it into a situation, that's something that he has of course, that's something we all need to learn to
Yes,
do.
of course.
It was
Knowing
more
where your
difficult.
perspective is welcome.
Yes.
It's
And for a
major
literal
key.
mind, that's more difficult than maybe
Yeah.
for somebody else. But yeah, that might be an easy way to kind of look at it. That's
Yeah.
a really good answer.
If you could go back in time and give your younger self, some advice, what would you tell your younger self?
Oh.
Are you asking me or just
Anybody.
Tori?
Well,
It's
that's
an
why
all-place,
I was leaving space for you.
Why would you look at me and just assume that I would have there's a wealth of
You
things?
have so
Clearly.
much wisdom.
Clearly, you had a lot of mistakes.
Yes.
No, I'll answer this. When I go to the memories section on Facebook and see some of the things that I posted in college and before,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, this wasn't that big of a deal. This was mean. This was inappropriate. This was not even accurate.
Yeah.
All of that stuff. Just stupid.
That's
Yeah.
good.
It's a light. My answer honestly kind of goes really dark, real deep, real fast. So I have a mental disorder, and so I would go back and assist myself during and after pregnancy. I had some really bad times post pregnancy. So yeah, that was your best time. You're supposed to be holding your baby and loving it, and I was living in it felt like in a prison of my mind. It's so real. And so yeah, I would love to do that, but hopefully yours is fun.
No, mine was pretty. It was like, if I'm gonna really help someone, it would be, don't sacrifice your purity on the altar of immaturity. I know that's kind of like coffee muggish, but
It's good though.
Stephen Furtick said that. I heard it probably when I was 20-something years old, and I was like, man, that is so good. And I think, especially now in the digital era where all of our kids have phones and access to each other and all of that, it's like, don't be stupid with your cell phone and your friends.
So much temptation.
Yeah. So
That's really good.
This will be interesting with what we've discussed. When you feel a strong emotion, what is the best way to respond to it? Wow, fascinating.
which emotion?
Or somebody else's strong emotion. I should be there with you.
Yes.
What's a good way to
Just had to bring up emotions again.
I know.
Mr. 3 on the diagram.
I would say wait, right?
Okay.
To wait and see, all right, but is this like legit? And if I feel strong enough about it in a day or a week, maybe something to pursue. Of course, every situation's different.
What was the question again?
Yeah, when you have a strong emotion, feel a strong emotion, what is the best way to respond to it?
Yeah. I'd ask, I would hope that I have the awareness to ask myself this. I don't. But what is this emotion trying to teach me or lead me toward about God? I think there's a lot of misinformation around emotions, actually. And I read this book recently called Permission to Feel, which is really good for a 3. Because it's funny, being an artist, you're supposed to really articulate emotion and human experience. But I think sometimes for me, it's like, I don't really want to go there because I don't want to deal with it. But that's because so much language around so many emotions is negative. It's like, being angry is bad. Being lonely is bad. Like all these things are bad, but it's all from God. So it's not bad. It just needs to be redeemed. So all of your emotions are telling you something and leading you towards something. Not the whole truth, but the truth if you let it. So if you're aware of like, wow, I'm really disappointed right now. What can I learn through this disappointment? Why am I disappointed? So I think if we put context around our emotions, it helps us.
It's really good. And to your point, so that you don't say anything that you feel like you need to take back, which, by the way, is going to be a new feature on the iPhone, apparently.
Oh, that's right. You can unsend messages now.
Unsend your message.
Really? Yeah.
Wow. So it's like, wait, I'm supposed to Holy
So
Spirit
now I don't have to
this.
type it out and then delete it?
You can actually send it.
Yeah, right. I can send it.
Unsend it. Yeah.
Hope they saw it.
Speaking of feeling, gratification there.
That's right. Well, and it's only iMessage. It's only Blue Message, iPhone to iPhone. So the Android people in my life will still know I'm a terrible person.
Yes.
So that's wonderful.
Green bubble.
So there's no changing that. All right, let's do. I think this one's last here.
Okay.
Let's do this one. What traits do you most admire in other people?
Hard work. Work ethic. Has everyone stopped working in 2022?
Everybody's quit at least once.
It's the year of resignation.
That's right. That's right.
That's a really good answer to hard work. Yeah. What traits do you most admire in other people? I mean, just watching a servant heart person. You just my husband is really good at this. He will sit down at the table with you and Tauren Wells. He will find out everything that's going on in your world, and you realize that the 1 hour you had for coffee is up, and you're like, oh no,
I didn't ask about him.
how are you?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I love that heart of what can I do to let you,
It's good.
can I pour into you at this moment? And I love that because I do struggle with that sometimes. I love to chat and talk and engage. And sometimes I find myself interrupting so that, wait. I need
just to listen.
Maybe I can just sit and be still and listen.
That's good.
To that point, I think the qualities that I don't have are the ones that I admire most in people. It's like the Lady Napoleon Dynamite, like, I want that. Like, it's just like that.
Napoleon Dynamite reference.
How about that?
Let's
Here we go. Set that on the table.
Yes.
And the ship in the bottle. I
Was
want that.
right. I want that.
And I'm like, whoa, that is a wise person, or somebody that's slow to speak, or whatever. Or, a creative person that honestly, what you do, and then drawing and stuff like that. I'm like, that would be really nice.
Yeah.
That would be really nice. I very much admire that.
You must admire me a lot.
Yeah. That's fine.